Welcome to Spiritual Changemakers, the podcast that guides you through tough times with practical tools and inspiring stories. I'm Andrea Thomas, your host and the Sacred Transitions Coach. Join us as we hear from spiritual changemakers who have connected with their higher power and overcame adversity. Whether you are navigating a difficult transition or seeking to deepen your spiritual practice, our podcast provides guidance to help you find magic in the change. Come on this journey of self-discovery, empowerment, and transformation with us and unlock your potential to become your best self. Welcome, my beautiful souls, to a new podcast episode on Spiritual Changemakers. Today I have two amazing guests, and I am so excited because we're going to have a very juicy conversation about Kundalini activation, about channeling, like some really, really juicy things. So stay tuned with us as you are going to learn. Maybe you've been hearing this buzzword, no? Like it's quite popular right now, like Kundalini, and you're like, what the heck is that? So you are going to learn all about it from my amazing guests today. And before we get started, I want you to have an idea, who do I have as guests? And I have two soul sisters, actually, and business partners. They are Kundalini masters, Mariya, who is also an intuitive channeler and intimacy coach. And I have Sarvenaz, a beautiful name, who is a hypnotherapy and RTT and womb healing healer, certified therapist. All of these things. And what they actually do, they actually certify coaches, healers, and spiritual entrepreneurs in their modality called Kundalini Elevation Facilitator. And that training actually helps them elevate their impact, income, and lifestyle on a genuine, new level. And they work on 3 levels. And the first one is they activate the psychic abilities. So they're able to be guided by their higher power and not the mind. The second level is activate Kundalini. So they clear emotional debriefs in the body and become fully free and alive. And the third level is embody leadership. So they can fully step into their power and agency and claim their unique talents, mission, and magic. And throughout this process, the spiritual entrepreneurs are able to shine their light in a high-profile healing business, serving their people with their magic. So I'm so excited to have you on. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us. It's an honor.
Yes, so happy. Yay. So I would love to hear, girls, first, how did you meet and how did you know that, oh my God, we are here to co-create together?
Beautiful. I'll start with how we met, and then Mariya can take you on the journey of the creation of our modality. So I actually had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening back in 2020. And I thought my entire world was collapsing. I had no idea it was called Kundalini. I had no idea what was happening to me. In fact, I actually thought I was dying and there was something wrong. And I navigated a spiritual awakening with a Kundalini awakening for 2 years of my life. No mentors, no guidance, no soul sister by my side. So that was quite a dark time in my life. But I understood that this energy was an intelligence and that it held wisdom and it had gifts. And that's what kept me going. 2 years later, I was connected with Mariya. And it was a beautiful synchronicity, actually. Many different people tried to connect me with her, and we met through dancing. We both dance Zouk Lambada, which is a Brazilian-style partner dance. Before I actually met her, the universe kept trying to orchestrate this meeting, but my logical mind kept getting in the way. And I was like, no, I don't need this. I don't need that. And someone was trying to tell me this woman does this incredible modality called Kundalini whatever. And at the time I was like, Kundalini, that's yoga. No, I'm not interested in yoga. And again, they were like, no, it's not really yoga. I can't quite explain it because what we do really has to be experienced. It can't be expressed in words. And so I just kept pushing it aside until one night, one of my other soul sisters, who's also a dancer, she pulled me across the dance floor. She pulled Mariya across the dance floor. She was like, you two need to meet. And I had this incredible woman stand in front of me. And I just said to her, look, I've heard a lot about you and what you do, but I still don't understand what it is that you do. What do you do? What is this Kundalini? And as she started expressing what it is that she did, my whole entire system lit up and my body started activating. Been activated for the last 2 years. And she kind of stepped back and she was like, oh my God, you're already activated. And I was like, I don't know what that means, but yes. And then I ended up going to one of her sessions and the rest is history. So I'll pass it on to her to tell you the rest.
Yeah, amazing. But before Mariya continues, like I hear you saying that the universe was like, keep trying, like, hello, you girls need to meet, you need to do something. And where this takes me is that when there is something meant for us, no matter what, it will come our way.
Goosebumps.
Yes. And I want to remind that to listeners to know that we don't need to chase. No, we don't need to like force things. What it's meant for you, it will be.
Totally. In divine timing as well. And it was
Yes.
all articulated and constructed in a certain way. And I just had to follow the rhythm, but it was with my logical mind that I was trying to move forward and it wasn't happening. And when I completely surrendered and we had that first meeting, everything changed.
Everything started shifting. Yes. And I'll love to hear from Mariya. Like what happened after? You are already doing Kundalini for how long, Mariya, when you met? Like you were doing those sessions for how long already?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago, actually. I think it was like probably a couple of years, maybe max or something like that. I wasn't doing it for that long ago, but the fact that the moment she got activated and experienced the magic of it, she felt immediately the calling that this is part of her mission and purpose. And she immediately graduated with the same mentors that I did. And as soon as she became qualified, we started running sessions together. And we collaborated with many other people at the time, just kind of co-hosting sessions, but it never felt so right with anybody else. And we just enjoyed facilitating together. And then it was so magical because people kept telling us, you too, there's something different about the sessions when the two of you are holding it together. They kept giving us the most incredible feedback, you know. They literally keep telling us how it's very different. I've never experienced anything like this before. They go to all the other facilitators, but something's different about our magic together. And we're looking at each other like 1, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 10th person. We're like, maybe we need to do something bigger together. I think the universe is trying to push us somewhere, you know.
Yes, maybe we should listen.
So maybe we should listen, absolutely. And then this is what happened. We got together and we felt that we needed to do something bigger together. So we started talking about potential business partnership. But again, divine timing had to orchestrate everything. It wasn't until probably a year later when we were already on a kind of big journey together, when actually it was by Voria, when you got contacted by Miss Turkey, and she has created this beautiful brand for goddesses with like underwear, sportswear, swimwear, and she got invited to do Kundalini activation and divine feminine activation as part of her launch/retreat. So it was like this big event that was held in Bulgaria, out of all places. Wow. And you know, it was just such a thing. So they connected and said they're going to do it. She's going to do the Kundalini activation for the models in the retreat. And then she said, well, I can't do it by myself. I've got to invite my soul sister Mariya, who is from Bulgaria. We need to do this together. So they invited me too. And this is how it all started. We were literally put together on the 8/8 portal in August. And we experienced the most synchronistic time together. I've never been so in sync with anybody, living in one space for a whole week. We literally, like the way we communicated, where our energies were just flowing with ideas. Everything was just so smooth, you know? And the ideas just kept landing on our heads. And then essentially we were just given the information that we just need to create. We just need to create a training together, see how we flow with that training. And literally we constructed it in 24 hours. It was like the shortest, the biggest, yet the biggest thing we've both created so far, and yet it had the shortest amount of time because it was just download after download. It was just given to us. You need to, as part of the training, you need to include this, and this. And it was just so clear from the beginning. We never had to wonder. We didn't have a process that we had to discover. It was just given to us.
Given, wow.
You know what I mean? From above. And it was 8th of August, right? The 8/8 portal. And then the training we were given, they had to be on the 11/11 portal every November. And we were like, can we pull a training so quickly? But the guides were like, yes, you just need to go. So we literally, for 24 hours, the whole training was ready, and we started sending it to people to kind of join. And we had the most incredible first training, and we realized this needs to become our modality. This is it. And the way we flowed was just so perfect. So we said, that's it. We're going to have this business partnership that's just beyond anything we've both experienced.
Wow, I love to hear these like aligned stories and connections and synchronicities that just shows like how in tune, and connected you both are, and surrendering to the magic of life and allowing it to happen through you. And I would love to hear like, what is Kundalini? Like, let's tell the audience like, what is Kundalini, and when do you know that you had it activated?
Beautiful. So Kundalini is actually our life force energy. Every single human being on the planet has this energy. We're all born with this energy. This energy is your divine birthright. Now, this energy actually creates you in your mother's womb. So it's your evolutionary life force energy. So let's say we're going from embryo to fetus and we're evolving in the mother's womb. It is the Kundalini energy that creates you and allows that evolution process. What happens in our lives is that this energy becomes dormant in the body. And there are many reasons for this, but one of the main reasons is the evolutionary life force energy that's known as Kundalini has many names. It's also called Shakti, and it is the divine feminine energy within us all. Now, we have been living in a patriarchal system for the last 2,000 years, which heavily suppresses and represses and oppresses the divine feminine and all her expressions. So this energy becomes dormant in the body. And the divine feminine is lacking in the world. The nurturing aspect, the compassion aspect, the peace, the balance, this is all lacking. And so when we activate this energy, we start healing ourselves from the inside out. And when she starts to awaken in your body, she lives in the base of the spine, and she's actually symbolized as a serpent or a snake. And so when she awakens, her primary objective is a purification process. And she starts to begin moving through the chakra points all the way up. But this is a process. It can take many years for people to start purifying from the inside out. And her primary aim is purification, but an expansion of consciousness as well, and to bring each person into harmony and balance. So we can't be too heavily in our masculine energies, because then we end up living in the kind of world that we live in right now, where there's war and famine and chaos and poverty. So when we activate the divine feminine life force energy, we evolve to the next stage of ourselves. And that next stage is a more conscious human being that's more balanced in both masculine and feminine energy. In summary, Kundalini is your divine feminine life force evolutionary energy. And it is our mission to help as many people as possible activate and awaken this inner healer and go through this purification process, so we can start moving towards that unity consciousness and that peace that we know is needed for the new earth.
Beautiful. And is that applying like to both genders, like here in the 3D world, like for the male and female?
Thank you so much for that question, because it's really important. Absolutely. Every single human being is born with this energy, regardless of your gender. So it's like having a left arm and a right arm. It's masculine, feminine energy. I'm a woman, but I possess masculine and feminine energy. A man will possess feminine and masculine energy. It's got nothing to do with gender. It's a force, it's energy within the system. But generally, across the board, the population has their divine feminine energy dormant and repressed in the body.
Yeah. I was just about to write exactly the same thing, that, regardless of gender, we all have feminine and masculine energies. And what these energies do to us, they have very different properties and very different qualities that because of them we bring. So for example, the masculine energy inside of us is all about structure, it's all about focus, it's all about direction, it's about presence, but it's also about doing things. It's a lot more linear, as we can see it even in the masculine shape. The feminine energy is our emotional body that can be blissful and ecstatic and joyful, but also the part of our body that can be heavy and intense, and grief and sadness and anger can also be there. And and this is why when we work with Kundalini, when we say your feminine energy has been repressed, is because we're so disconnected from our hearts and our bodies store so much debris. I like to call it debris, but it's really emotional blockages, because when we are really, really young, our nervous system are not regulated. We're not taught in our society how to express emotions and how to move emotions. And emotions, when they're not felt in the moment when they happen and expressed, they get blocked, right? So they are waves of energy. They need to run through the body and then come out, and there's healthy ways to experience and express every emotion. But when we're not taught in our society, what happens is people don't know how to feel. People fear their emotions. And especially when we're young, we don't know how to deal with emotions. So it's very easy for a child to also repress an emotion if it was too traumatic for them, and it just didn't know. It's not just something you can cry over. It's just, big traumatic experiences in life. So, when that happens, the child doesn't know how to process it. So it just blocks it until a later stage in life comes when they're capable of handling this amount of pain. So, because we're so conflicted as a society when it comes to emotions, we get disconnected from the body and the heart, and we stop feeling. And this is why we say the divine feminine is be repressed, not because women are generally repressed. There are parts of the world where women are repressed, right? This is still true, it's still valid, but not everywhere. But what we really mean in the spiritual community is what we say this is actually our connection to our bodies, to our hearts, is not really fully alive. And because of this, there's so many disturbances to the masculine energies, men or people that are too much their masculine without the feminine, too controlling, too dominant. So the world just suffers because our leaders, unfortunately, become like this just because they are representation of the whole society, right? So it just becomes really heavy energy to deal with, and therefore it has repercussions to the body, to the mind, to the psyche, because we forget the softness, we forget the power of our softness. And that's when true magic happens, because when we learn how to feel again, like Kundalini helps us feel again and become in touch with our bodies and feel everything that's been blocked. And as we're feeling it and expressing it, it gets released. And usually people release it through, for example, allowing themselves to cry if they feel grief, or allowing themselves to roar if they feel anger, or allowing themselves just to feel the bliss in their body they were never allowed to express, right? Depending on the society, the families that they grew up in. So once you start feeling the permission and these energies inside of you and able to express them, you become free. You become free in your expression, and you soften. You see people's faces when they come to the sessions, and they're sometimes scared because they don't know what they're going into. Because Kundalini is so mysterious, you don't know, and when you don't know, people get scared. Oh, is it dangerous? Is it whatever? And sometimes they're scared, sometimes they don't know what to expect. And then the moment they experience it and they go through that session and you just see their faces, they're all like divine angelic beings. They just gone through experiencing. You just see their light, their eyes lit up, their faces start to glow. They feel so humble and alive. And you just see this, you feel in the room this softness, and this is just so blissful to see, because in the end, a lot of people are just speechless, and they come and just say, thank you, I have no words. I can't describe what I've experienced, but it's one of the most powerful things I can experience in my life. And for both of us, that's when we cry.
You cry at the end after a session. Yes, that's so amazing. And this is, I would say, one of the modalities, that people can get in touch with their emotions and so on. And for me, I'm pretty sure I had my Kundalini activated in a Tantra retreat. When I literally did a few years ago 2 Tantra retreats, one after the other, for like 2 weeks. And in the second one, I was doing this meditation. And in this meditation, I had like a full body orgasm. And it's when my Kundalini was activated. And from from that moment on, I could feel like that shaking, that you were talking, like I still feel it on like certain musics when I'm getting in touch with my body in certain ways. But what do you do with it after it's activated? So first, how do you know it's activated? Like, how do you know? Okay, for me, I had that full body orgasm, but I didn't know at that time. I'm like, oh my God, my Kundalini got activated. I got to learn afterwards, like being in the spiritual communities and so on. But then how do you go about it? How do you integrate it? How do you get to use it in a way that serves you to like feel your emotions, to express, to create from that divine feminine?
Beautiful, beautiful question. So this was the question that we both navigated for many years alone before we found each other, without community. And it was very difficult because as divine and powerful and mystical and magical as this energy is, it is also the energy of destruction, because the divine feminine will destroy anything that's not of resonance with your higher self. So it will start stripping away the self-limiting beliefs, the people, the things around you that are not longer meant to be a part of your world, a part of your being. And so that can feel quite chaotic. And if you don't have the guidance or the community or the support, it can feel quite overwhelming. And we were navigating that by ourselves before we met each other. And this is why we created a community called Conscious Soul Club that holds people through their Kundalini awakenings. So we don't just give people transmissions and leave them. We help them integrate that energy into their everyday life, and we give them tools and techniques to be able to embody this energy, because this energy is an intelligence and it will guide you to your North Star. So we all come here with our soul's blueprint. We all have a North Star. We all have a destiny. And once you activate the Kundalini, it's like turning on your internal sat nav, your compass towards your destiny. So that energy will guide you naturally. Your magnetism comes online massively. When you are activating your Kundalini energy, one of the ways you know is because you become magnetic as fuck.
Yes, I can attest to that.
This is it. So you get the right people, the right opportunities, all of the things that are meant to flow to you. But life will also test you. Maybe it will bring you some wrong people and wrong opportunities too, just so you can practice your discernment. One of the ways you'll know is magnetism. And so what you end up doing is surrendering to this flow of alignment in your life, and you start moving with life rather than having resistance or hesitation, because you've got your internal compass, your intuition, which I like to call your soul's language. That's the way your soul communicates to you, through your intuition. Your intuition comes online with Kundalini. So that's guiding you. You've got your magnetism, and you're just surrendering to this beautiful magic of life, and you're flowing, and you're starting to feel your feelings. You're starting to have your consciousness expanded, and you're starting to have all these new experiences. And it is a completely different way of living, because you do have to surrender. You have to allow yourself to surrender to the magic of life. And it is difficult if you don't have the support, if you don't have the understanding, if you don't have the tools. And this is why we created, like I said, this community called Conscious Soul Club, where people can plug themselves in, and you have this network of conscious beings all around the world who are experiencing the same things. So we can all navigate it together. And everything that we have lived, everything that we have been taught, we bring into this container to hold people through this process. As it can, like I said, be quite intense and overwhelming, but through community, you are stronger. So this is one of the ways that we have tackled this kind of Kundalini awakening experience.
Yeah, some people get, when they're activated, the way you are changes because you become so in touch and so sensitive. And at the beginning, for a lot of people, being so sensitive to everything becomes overwhelming. And this is why community is so important, because of course we're powerful on our own, but if you try to take a stick and break it on its own, it can break. But if you take 10 sticks together, it's so much harder to break, because when you open your intuitive channel and your intuition is telling you, intuitions become so open and active. So it tells you to do certain things. It tells you to put certain boundaries or to take certain actions. And maybe they seem crazy to the rational mind or counterintuitive, they feel, But when you have the support of the community, for people who actually see you, right? It's so much easier because where we are in our life is a reflection of where we are now. So imagine you're somebody who awakens in an environment that's obviously supportive of their old identity, and when they were disconnected from themselves. So every time they try to elevate and act and be more empowered and act in service of themselves and in favor of their purpose or mission, of course everybody will be like, "Ooh, they're going to try to bring them down because they want to have this old person." Because when I try to step into my energy healing space, because we are both ex-corporate, by the way, we come from like very scientific backgrounds, and I mean, I'm personally an auditor and graduated from economics, and she's been in sales and leading, tons of men as a, high position in a corporate tobacco company. So we come from very masculine orientated, environment to become a healer and claim this part of ourselves, that we are going to be healers and role models, and we're going to create change in this world in a way that feels right and according to our values and feels right into our hearts and our bodies. It was such a big thing. So without support has been really, really difficult. There's been so many moments where, I've personally felt lost, and I needed some support from, different people, different mentors. So, it's been a challenge. So when we met, we found we're so much stronger together. When there's somebody who can hold space for us, we can share our difficulties, we can share our challenges, and have a space of community where we can see each other for who we are. Because from the moment we enter that space, we teach people, as part of the process, we teach people intuitive channelings, as well as give them a lot of transmissions and masterclasses to support the journey. But they keep getting transmissions, becoming more and more sensitive, getting more sensitized to everything, not having to escape reality, but getting intentionally more sensitive and able to feel more, and therefore purifying themselves. People change their diets, people change, their lifestyle, their choices, not because they decided to control their life from the mind, but because it comes from within. It's not like, I'm just smoking now, that's it. It doesn't work like this. Something from deep inside tells them, I'm ready, and then they never look back. Like things like this happen, and when we hold space, like this, especially with intuitive channelings, is sometimes people don't know what they work in those communities because we operate from intuition. So we do intuitive readings, and we tune into each other's souls and to each other's purposes and each other's resistances and sabotages. So we actually see the person for who they really are. And sometimes somebody in the debrief mentions, and when I was doing this, and then like, oh, I didn't know you do that. It's just completely different world as opposed to what we do in our everyday lives. Like, oh, this is my name, this is what I do, this is where I'm from. In our community, we don't talk about these things unless we come up with shares. It's about what's your purpose, what's your mission, what's your talent, how you sabotage yourself, how to refocus, holding space when the difficulties and emotions. And it's just such a different space to be in. We've missed this in our journey, and I guess our pain, it created help us recognize this is what's needed in the world: more community, more equality, more support, more love, more gentleness. And it's been invaluable for us too.
Oh my God. And I can so relate to everything you have shared, both of you, how my life has shifted and changed ever since. And for me, honestly, I didn't really associate it as much with the Kundalini awakening. And I'm so happy right now. I'm having this aha moments and insights, I was like, oh my God. Because when I started traveling the world, my intention was to trust and surrender, be on my healing journey. So it was a lot about letting go of control, be more in my feminine. And I can tell the Thailand experience, the Tantra retreats were more at the beginning of my journey. And after that, I just went on traveling just intuitively. That was my intention as well. Traveling intuitively, I became more in my feminine. And even now, I hear people constantly telling me wow, you are so in your feminine. I'm like, really? Thank you. I'm like, yay, because I used to be very much so in my masculine, So now I'm able to see also the connection with the Kundalini awakening. And I have to say, it's freaking hard. So many times it was so hard for me, travel one-way ticket, because that was the guidance I would just get. No idea how long I'm gonna be here for. And I don't know what I'm doing here. And just following that thread that now I'm telling everyone, I'm so like, my intuition is so strong. Like I know exactly where, how, but that doesn't mean it's easy. And I think this is what people have like wrong, knowing their ideas that, oh, if I'm intuitive, it's just going to be easy. It's actually much harder, I would say, to follow your intuition than just go with the logic in the moment. And I would love for you ladies to touch on that, like, because living a connected life with your like life force energy, yes, with the Kundalini, it can be hard. And for you said, okay, it is hard. And at the same time, that's why we created this community to support you to move along more in alignment, to see that you're not alone. But I want to hear for those that maybe are still not there yet, like maybe they don't have their Kundalini awakened. Why would they say like, yes, let me go on this journey, when we are telling them actually it's not gonna be hard, it's not gonna be easy? Right. Why is it worth it for someone to be like, let me embark on this? Because many times, like, I don't know how it was for you, Mariya, but for you, Sarves, you said it happened. So for me as well, it just happened. Yes, it's not something we've searched. And this is something I want to hear as well. Like, do people hear about it and it's like, I know I have to do it? Do people search? It just calls them? How do someone embarks on this journey?
So I'll just answer your last point there. So it's by the grace of the universe, by grace of God, we can have people come to Kundalini activation. If the intelligence is not ready to activate in their body, it doesn't matter how powerful we are, how safe the space is, they won't get activated because it's not their time. So whenever it's your time, you will get activated. And so it is by the grace of God. It's one of those things where when it's your time, it's your time. And that is meant to be the time you start evolving as a soul. Now, as well, we've discussed how it can be intense, it can be overwhelming, it could be difficult. All of that is there. However, my life has never been more miraculous, more magic, more blissful, more full of ecstasy, more full of joy. I didn't know I had soul family on this planet. Yeah. And every single one of them has found me since I activated this energy. It's like, you know, that magnetism that we speak about. I have met my soulmate through this energy. I've met my soul sister who we're speaking to right now on this energy, and so many other soul members of my family. And when you meet these people, everything starts to click into place. You feel so seen, so loved, and you all of a sudden feel complete. Like there's a part of you that was missing, and that whole feeling of wholeness, there's nothing like it. And once you live a soul-led life, the fulfillment is on another level. So people have been conditioned and programmed to think you have to work a 9 to 5, you have to get a mortgage, you have to get married, you have to have kids. And then in your 60s and 70s, you can retire and enjoy your life. It's like, fuck that, right? We all have this divine blueprint. We all have our soul's mission and our purpose. And when you activate your Kundalini, you start touching what that is. And that's the beauty of it. If you want to know your purpose in life, if you want to know who you truly are on a soul level, this energy helps you activate that and unlock that. And something else that you touched on earlier on is the intuitive piece. One thing that sets our training apart from any other Kundalini facilitator trainings out there is that we don't just initiate people who activate their Kundalini and go on to activate other people's Kundalinis. We initiate conscious facilitators, which is the intuitive channeling piece. So we teach people how to access their intuition so they can start creating a life from their intuition and from their soul rather than from their ego and their kind of limited self. And when you understand the difference between soul and ego, then as a facilitator, as a human being, you are on a completely different level of operation. So this is something that we include in our training. So we don't just include Kundalini activation, we activate the psychic abilities and we help our facilitators and our students activate their psychic channels, their intuitive channels, so they can really start moving through life through their intuition and being guided by it, as opposed to keeping themselves small and moving through fear.
Yeah, and I'm curious if you can share a little bit the difference between right now for people to know what's the difference of living from their intuition, a soul-led, or from the ego. And I know you said you do this in your trainings, but I'm curious if you can give people like a taster for them to understand, okay, where I'm at right now in the spectrum of living in alignment with my soul or with my ego.
Yeah, what a great question. So, this is the forever question, right? So for every intuitive insight that we receive, the ego will try to create reasons why you shouldn't create that. So the intuitive insight is the initial spark of creation. You know how life force energy creates life? And the purpose of every human soul here is to come and evolve, but also to express themselves and evolve through self-expression. And some of the ways that people express themselves is through our creativity to create, right? We're creative beings. So the function of consciousness is to really create and self-express. And through expression and movement, we actually evolve. And this initial spark that brings people to life, things that makes us inspired, and we live inside of God, inside, plugged into the charger, right? Inside of our inspiration, inside of motivation. And it usually feels like you're doing something that's bigger than you, because every single human being has creative faculties, and every human being has a higher self, which is a higher level of operation of our consciousness. And every human being has intuition. I don't want to sound like some people don't have it. No, if you're a human being, you have a higher self and you have intuition, because this is the language of the soul. So you all have that. The problem with society is that in schools, we're not taught how to access that ability. Of course, everybody will be able to tap into this differently. For example, some people are better able to sing, but everybody can speak and has a voice, right? So everybody is psychic. Of course, some people will be more gifted in it, but just because we have different levels of talents, but everybody has intuition and everybody is psychic, right? So everybody is able to tap into that part of themselves if they're taught how. And we have a step-by-step process that we teach how to access that part of your psyche that's outside of your ego, and the way the ego communicates, right? If the intuition is the language of the soul and the higher self, then your ego communicates through thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And who makes decisions based on thoughts, feelings, and emotions? I mean, all of us are guilty, right? Because when an emotion surges up, you're like, yeah, if I'm angry, I'm going to shout. If I'm sad, I'm going to cry. If I'm upset, I'm going to withdraw. So we all make decisions based on emotions. But this is a very unaware way of living, because our ego is also part of the unconscious mind. And the unconscious mind is storage of all the past experiences from the moment of conception, which is before we're even born, until the moment we are now. So it's a record of all the experiences that we have had and all the beliefs that we've created inside of our psyche as a result of those experiences. And the ego's function is to protect us and to keep us safe. As much as that's great when it comes to physical safety, right? If you see a bear, you need to run. Like if the car is going to cross, is coming towards you, you need to run. You should not be jumping from the window because you're going to die. So in terms of physical safety, the ego is amazing and we need it. But when it comes to love or living your purpose, it feels scary. This is danger zone, alarm zone, So what it does is, the ego is not bad. A lot of people think of the ego as bad, but what we do in our training is reveal people. Actually, ego has good intentions. Ego is there to protect us. And to protect us from actually dying, because if we die, we're not going to be able to fulfill, right, our purpose. So it's trying to keep us alive and survive. But when it comes to living your purpose, it's actually having a we can have a counteractive experience, because it can come in the shape and the form of resistance and self-sabotage, because it may be scary for the mind to open up and love because we've been hurt in the past. So it's trying to protect us. Or maybe it's scary to put ourselves out there to share our gifts with the world, whatever these gifts are, and claim who we are. For example, all of us that work in the healing arts have had to face the witch wound, right? When we were once killed. So everybody feels suffocating and panicking, showing up to the world and serving with their gifts. So that's how it works. When you learn to differentiate between intuition and ego, it becomes, we call it, conscious, because people make conscious choices. And we like to say, referring to what you said before, difficult choices make life easy. When you say difficult, it's not that life's difficult, it's the difficult choices make life easy, and the easy choices make life difficult. So what becomes more difficult is you changing the patterns, but to change the patterns, you need to get out of your habits, and to get out of your habits, it's just a decision away. So actually what becomes harder is that you can't unsee what you see anymore. So you have this greater level of responsibility to be aware, right? To be aware, to make conscious choices, because all of a sudden you have all of this energy inside of you that is driving you forward. You can't deny it anymore, and you're creating and creating and creating. But during those creations, you will have to make choices. And, no matter how high they are, the more truthful choices you make, the more life will expand. And, Sav and I have, since we've left the corporate, we've traveled the world, we've launched trainings and retreats, we've created communities, we've healed thousands of people across the globe. This was only a dream life. We never thought it would be possible for us or available even to us, some years back. But it just works so quickly when you are devoted to this work, when you're devoted to truth. It can happen so quickly. People are blown away, in the communities or in the trainings and after the trainings, people within a session or two feel inspired to leave toxic relationships, or in a couple of weeks they meet their soulmates because they're destined to meet, and then they send us postcards, look, we are married, and or engaged or whatever, and living marriages, they've been completely dried up and they just haven't had the guts to just say it to each other, just all of a sudden have that urge to, we just need to say it, life's too short to pretend. And just people become alive. And a lot of people, when they say they're scared of Kundalini, they're not scared of Kundalini. They're scared of what might be revealed through the practice of Kundalini, because it just makes you unapologetically alive and makes you see truths, and you can't unsee what you see.
Wow, I love it. And you shared there a point that I would say I haven't heard it put in that way, and I freaking love it. You said that hard decisions make life easy, and easy decisions makes life hard. Wow. I love that so much, because it is so true.
It is.
And we live in a world where everything is about instant gratification. No, it's, oh, I want that, it's just gonna happen right now. So people don't really practice anymore making hard decisions and being in that uncomfortable place, which when we grow and we want to create a different life, it is going to be uncomfortable. It's not just because we are in touch and we are in touch with the intuition and life force energy and so on. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy in the moment, but it's going to be easier on the long term when we make the aligned decisions. And I could not agree more with that.
Yeah. And just to give you a couple of examples as well, some of the things that have come up on our journeys, for example, relationship with boundaries with other people and money, so when you're stepping into your power, there's just so many boundaries you have to put in order to protect your energy, to protect your mental, emotional, physical well-being, right? And putting a boundary, when you come from a background where I wasn't as empowered as before, I grew up in a way where boundaries were not even a thing. I didn't know what boundaries meant, when I was younger. It's just the way my parents and the dynamics in the family was set up. There's no boundaries. So I even lived in the living room, because in the house, my great grandma had to live in the space that was designed to be my room. And obviously she was still alive. There's nowhere else to live. So I had to live in the living room. So boundaries weren't even a thing. So I grew up like this. And that has been a major, challenge in my life. And when I started doing this empowering journey, at the beginning, I felt guilty for putting a boundary. Right? I decided to honor my body and put a boundary. And that's a difficult decision, right? You make a decision and then, what's the consequence? The consequence is I feel guilty, and the guilt is trying to make me backtrack, and give into, my weakness, into having no boundaries. But no, it's just understanding that you're making a different choice. You're stepping into a different reality. It will feel temporarily unknown and uncomfortable. And there will be parts of you that want to drag you back through guilt or through something else. But the whole point here is to just stick with your decision and the consequences, because you're stepping into a new reality. And very shortly after, you're like, wow, I did that. I did that. And then it gives you more inspiration to do it again in the future. So it becomes a new normal. But it's just this first moment where you just make that difficult decision to be like, no, I'm going to do it differently this time. And it's the same with money. We felt, well, I'm just going to talk about myself, but, when we were guided for to put the pricing around, around facilitated trainings and other products that we offer and services, you know, I felt challenged and stretched, and my body was like, oh my God, I can't ask someone who's going to pay that. And then I had to heal some of my wounds in relation to my money, and, you know, that sense of self-worth. I'm able to hold and receive this amount of money. And at the beginning, you know, I felt guilty. How am I going to ask money? You know, can I be confident on the call? But as I healed that inner part of me, I was able to be like, yeah, fuck yeah, I can ask for those money, you know? Especially after holding this space, the amount of transformation that happens in front of our eyes, the way people's life change is so priceless. Any price is a good price. You know, $1 million to us is a good price, because people are not the same, and you can't put a price on it, right? And it takes rewiring, and all of these things are so important. And one thing that we've both had as well is the celibacy, isn't it? Like, we've both gone on massive journeys of being celibate, and it's so different because I'm single. She is in a relationship and got celibate. So it's like, it's been such an incredible experience, because our bodies become so wise with Kundalini. They guide us what's needed for our next level. And sometimes it tells us things that don't make sense. But if you honor, right, if you honor what's inside of you, there's always going to be gold on the other side. And of course, it's going to be challenging when you've been guided to be celibate all of a sudden, right? It might be that resist this for different reasons. But when you claim that, then you open a completely new level of power and connection to your body and connection to business, and, you know, ability to hold love, ability to hold money, everything. So it's, you know, it's the more we honor our intuition in our body, the more we open up new levels. And that's what Kundalini does with everybody. It makes you sensitive enough to hear your inner voice, to hear what the body speaking to you, and to support you to be at ease and flow.
Yeah. So beautiful. And I would love to hear from Sarvenaz, like, why celibacy? Oh, I cannot pronounce it. And how did you do that, like being in a relationship? And how is that connected with the Kundalini energy?
Yep. So before I met my soulmate, I actually felt guided to be celibate for a while, and to kind of really start healing my womb and healing my body from many experiences in the past that may not have been nourishing, or the way that I wanted kind of sacred sexuality to be.
Can you tell people also exactly what does it mean to be celibate? And was that not having like sexual interaction with others, and also not pleasuring yourself? Like, what is the depth of that?
So I think there's different degrees of celibacy. It depends what feels right for you. For me, once I was on my spiritual and Kundalini journey, I wanted to not have sexual interactions with anyone else. Self-pleasure and sex magic and all of that was kind of still open for me, because I wanted to learn more about my body and see what kind of things felt nourishing to myself, because up until that point, I didn't even know that Tantra and sacred sexuality existed. So this was a new world for me. And rather than exploring it with someone, I wanted to first kind of understand it and embody it within my own being. But then what happened was I met my soulmate. So then, of course, in the middle of that, at that point, I couldn't keep that vow to myself, because obviously I felt so excited that it was my soulmate. But I then noticed that, okay, no, this still needs to be honored in my body. And my body and my womb are still asking for this, regardless of if you've met your soulmate. There is a process that I need to go through, and that process needs stillness, that needs not to be penetrated, not to have any activity, nothing, and to just really give my womb space and time to heal. And I'm very lucky, because my soulmate is so understanding, and he is on a similar journey. We actually met because he came to one of my Kundalini sessions. So he's very open-minded, he's very understanding. And even though that was very difficult to navigate, he understood that that's what I needed. And in that period of time, I was able to also go in deep into womb work. And this is where I became a womb circle facilitator as well. And I understood that, okay, my body is asking for something. Maybe it doesn't make sense to my logical mind. Maybe it doesn't make sense to where I'm at in my life in terms of being in partnership or not. But am I going to resist it again and just override it? Or am I going to honor it? And I had to have this period of honoring it. And it was a really important period of time to go through. And now I'm out on the other side of it. But what's really interesting is just today, I got offered to go to another island. So I'm in Lanzarote. I'm going to Tenerife to a retreat called The Wet and Worthy Woman, where this incredible facilitator who's trauma informed was actually had a sexual trauma back in the day. She was able to overcome that. And she is now teaching women how to go really deep in their dark feminine energy and let go of shame, let go of guilt, let go of all the kind of lower vibrational energies around sexuality, sensuality, boundaries, and truth. And she holds these really sacred, intimate spaces for women to come together to tap into this energy. And of course, it's no coincidence. So we kind of met, and all online. And I offered my services for Kundalini, and she had one space left for this retreat that's happening next week. So I'm literally next week going to go in there, not just as a facilitator, but as a woman who's ready to also kind of go even deeper into that initiation. And I really feel like I'm so ready for it. I feel, and this just happened this morning, so I haven't even had a chance to tell Mariya.
Wow. This is amazing. Oh.
And I'm so excited to claim these parts of me and to go deep into a space where there's going to be no shame. There's going to be full acceptance, full embrace. And we don't know what that looks like. You know, a lot of the time as women, we're told it's not appropriate to dress like that. It's not correct to do this. It's not right to say that. So we shrink. What does the version of me that's so expansive and unapologetic and so embodied in all my sensuality and my birthright and my sexuality, what does that even look like? You know, so I'm so excited next week to go and explore and learn from someone who has been able to overcome something so traumatic and turn that pain into power to then hold these spaces for women to tap into theirs. So yeah, I feel like this is kind of like the reward for the celibacy. It's like, well done for honoring me. Yay. And now here you go. Go full throttle.
So excited for you. I definitely feel like I had chills when you were describing that you're going there.
My body is gonna
love it.
I just think this is really powerful work, and it's very interesting because we work with the divine feminine energy. Like we said, Kundalini is the divine feminine, but there's so many layers and so many aspects. They're like onions, right? So even us facilitators need to be held. Us healers need to be held. So it's so important to be able to put your hands up and say, I'm not perfect. I have my wounds. I have my needs. And I also am constantly learning. And I think that's also as leaders to also be open-minded enough and humble enough to say that I'm still on the journey and I'm still open to being taught and to learning and to exploring the depths. That is
it's this constant thing now of like being the teacher and being the student, being the teacher, being the student. It's like we are constantly playing in between these two, I would say. And it's an evolution, and the healing, it's 100% that there are so many layers. There are so many layers to it. And at the same time, I know I used to feel before like discouraged. I'm like, but I thought I'm done with this. Like, how long am I still gonna work on this? You know? And I'm like, oh, it's just, I reached another level. I just reached, you know? So I'm trying to make it like more fun instead of like, I cannot believe I'm still working on this.
Totally. And you hit the nail on the head. It's, you have to have curiosity and intrigue when it comes to these things, or you will give up. And in our last training, we actually have a moment where it was filmed when we were in our circle giving our teachings. And we said, can we approach our emotions and our traumas with curiosity and intrigue as opposed to fear and overwhelm? And Mariya is so funny. She turns around, she goes, look, if that emotion is stuck in your body, if it was going to kill you, it would have killed you by now, right? But it hasn't. So you're going to be all right. if you can feel it, you're going to be all right. It hasn't killed you. And it's true. People are so scared to go into the depth and to see what's lurking. And it's really interesting what you said, because this period of Mercury retrograde has been heavy. And certain things have come up for me that I thought I'd healed. And I was like, what is this? It's like a slap in the face. But it's like you said, can we look at it from a lens of curiosity and intrigue and playfulness and lightfulness, as opposed to dread and like, here we go again.
Yeah, and I see that a lot now in the personal development and the healing space, and where we tend to make it so like hard and heavy and like this, like, oh my God, and I have this trauma and now this, and like, you know, like we almost become like the victims of like our healing journey. And it's very easy to go on that side too. So I feel that my intention is like, how can we also bring more lightness, more playfulness, and also not take it so freaking serious? At the end of the day, it's all a game that we are here to play, and it's all about our expansion. No, like we are here to just expand our consciousness and just remember that. And as long as we grow and expand, that's the point. And the rest is just going to happen at the end of the day. But to stop taking things so seriously, especially when it comes to our healing and personal development, because then we are just in this space of like, I constantly just need to stay and heal and like forget to live life and be playful and joyful because no, I have too much trauma. So I'm like, let's get over that, like feel it, but then also like bring lightness to it because it doesn't have to be heavy. I've been studying Kabbalah, and in Kabbalah it's saying this thing of like showing up that I am already whole. Like, you know, in whatever it is that we do, I am already whole, and everything I do is like as an expansion. It's not to fix something. So I want to bring this like to the audience to know that no matter what you choose to do, to remember that you don't need to fix yourself, but you choose to go on this journey to expand yourself.
Yeah, I love that actually. And it does remind me also of the framework that we have in our training, that ego is the part of you that has all the trauma, and and is the part of you that feels broken and needs to be fixed, and the ego is constantly trying to fix ourselves and to create all these compensating strategies. But your higher self or your soul is already whole. We all, there's a part of us that's broken, yes, but there's also a part of us that's whole. And which one are you making decisions from? We all have the capacity to tap into our wholeness and make decisions from our wholeness, regardless of the other part of us that thinks we're broken. And the more we give the power to the whole version of ourselves, the more we manifest from there. It's like the devil and the light, right? And the angel, and we just try to talk.
Yes.
And the brokenness is just speaking how broken we are, and then they just say how amazing we are. And which one are you going to listen? At the end of the day, the choice is yours. You can feel broken and act broken if you wanted to, if that's what's going to be your choice. But I don't recommend it. Certainly feels better to feel wholesome and to manifest from your soul and from your wholeness, because that's what the results are going to be. They will feel wholesome and they will feel great. So, in the end of the day, it's a matter of choice, and we don't want to be victims of our lives. We want to be creators, and to be a creator, you've got to just make decisions from that part. And as you say, sometimes in spiritual communities or personal development communities, we can feel so heavy, like healing after healing, retreat after retreat, but people just don't integrate a lot of the times, and they just drop after. So during the retreat you have a high, and then if you don't integrate, you'd have a drop at some point, and then they're chasing the highs instead of integrating what's happened. And that's when real embodiment comes into play, and real integration. Because if you really integrate what you had learned, you probably wouldn't need many trainings, right? It's if you really integrate into work, you wouldn't need many mentors in your life, really. Probably going to need a few different points in your life to kind of help you open the next level, but it's not going to be that many, because if we're integrating, we can just enjoy our new levels of awareness in life and the new levels of consciousness without having to constantly be in that healing space 24/7, chasing the high and feel better.
And that's part of what you do, no? Like in your community, like part of it's the integration, the embodied leader. No, that's the phase. It's the integration.
Absolutely. And this is one of the reasons why we left the academy that we trained with, because we just didn't feel the support was genuine or was just there at all. And as part of our trainings, we give people lifetime access to support. It's just, for us, it's just out of question. You're going to be part of us and you're going to trust us. Well, we're going to give everything that we've got. You know what I mean? Because it's such a powerful journey. You got to integrate it. And we like to say that the training is really powerful, but the integration is probably even more powerful, because that's what's stay with you afterwards. And
Yeah.
if you
And would you describe a little bit of like how that integration like looks like? Like what does it mean? Because I think some people don't even have the awareness of what it means to like integrate afterwards.
Yeah. So, for example, let's say you go to an amazing retreat, or you go to a workshop or a masterclass or a training, and you learn all these incredible new techniques and tools, and you have all these big breakthroughs and big experiences. And if you don't have a process of integration, you can't embody what you have learnt and actually apply it to your life. So it's like reading a self-help book that tells you all the ways to integrate a new mindset to be able to manifest your dream life. But if you're not integrating that and embodying that, it's just information that you've read, but there's no embodiment. So embodiment is taking what you have received as a transmission and actually living it through the body, living it through the experience, and becoming that transmission. That takes time. And that's why when, I see people that go from like plant medicine ceremony to plant medicine ceremony, retreat to retreat, and they're constantly chasing the next high, the next spiritual experience. I mean, yeah, we all want to feel that bliss and that oneness and that connection to source. It's beautiful. But if you're not integrating in between, then your body is just overwhelmed. Your nervous system is fried. And the way that you integrate is through nervous system work. Because when the nervous system feels at ease, when you're in a regulated state, rest and repair, you are able to your body naturally integrates and processes the things that you have learnt. It's like a sponge that's just soaking up the water, and you're able to then, it's not anything you have to physically do. It's just resting periods in between and reflection. This is why people like to journal, and this is why community support of just having an open discussion of what I learned, how I feel, how am I going to apply this to my life? And that can be really soothing. But if we're going from one thing after another, or we're constantly overstimulated or distracted in our lives, and our nervous systems are constantly in fight or flight or fawn or freeze, then we have no integration window. We have no processing of anything that we've learned. And so it's just kind of stacking things on top of each other and wondering why your life's not changing. And it's actually quite chaotic then. You're kind of manifesting lots of different things that don't really make sense and are out of alignment. Lots of different weird people are coming into your life, and there's no alignment, there's no flow, because there's no integration. So what we like to do, for example, in our conscious soul community, we'll give one Kundalini activation transmission a month. And the rest of the month is nervous system regulation, masterclasses, intuitive readings. And that gives space for integration in between the transmission for people to process what they've gone through. And then we go again the month after, rather than bombarding them week after week with Kundalini.
Yeah. And another example, when I had first got introduced to consciousness work, there was 5 years, that I needed before I needed another mentor to integrate everything that I had learned, because the learning was so big. It turned my life around. And there's a lot of people who then went on to other trainings. And how do people do that? I haven't even applied this. I don't have space to learn new. And to apply what you had learned, from a whole modality takes a while. It's not something you do overnight, because it means, okay, you've had a week worth of training, but that week worth of training had thousands of insights, millions of boundaries you need to put, millions of ways you need to step into a new power. When did you have chance to apply that? You know what I mean? It doesn't happen for a week. People get taken out of their everyday environment and plugged into a training. They go through intuitive insights, energetic activations, so many new insights during that space. And then they go back into their old environments. And what do you think happens? They're just hit with their old life, their old, their partners, their kids, their surroundings, their clients, their colleagues, their old life. But they're a new person in an old life. So how are you going to manage that? It doesn't mean you have to get rid of everybody. That's not saying, but how are you going to navigate the dynamics? Are you going to keep the old dynamics and start shrinking back into the old version of you, and you're going to be reverting back every progress that you've made? Or are you going to apply new changes and new dynamics maybe to your relationships? Maybe you want to communicate differently. Maybe you want to have new requests and new boundaries, or maybe you want to have greater intimacy and closeness, or afraid of holding space for other people. Are you afraid of being a facilitator, or do you feel in a flow with that? It's like, how do you show up at work, or how do you show up as a mom or as a friend? or as a lover, whatever has come up for you. Integration is the moment when you first apply it and solidify it, and second, you allow your nervous system to start feeling this is the new normal. It's transition period. It's so easy to revert back, and when people don't have that support, they revert back. And because we feel responsible for the people who have been activated by us, we want to hold their hand. It's not fucking easy. It's not easy, and we need to hold their hand, not because they can't do it by themselves, but because it was slightly so more easy when you are part of a group of people, a community that understands what you're going through. So it's exactly what Sav says. Like, if you don't do that integration, you're going to hit the low, and when you hit the low, all you're going to want is another retreat, and then it's just a repeated cycle. And that's when it's exactly, it's just the chase of a high. You just become drug addicts. Personal development becomes just a slip. We don't want to be a slip. No more, please.
I have been guilty of it in the past. I think all of us, and that was like literally even this morning I went for a walk before we had this call, because I'm in a place of a lot of expansion, and I was just reflecting. I'm like, oh my God, so much is happening and I'm so stimulated, I'm like, I need to take a step back, like reassess what's happening, my schedule and what I'm saying yes to, no to. And I literally, even the last few days, I'm like, I literally have to ditch and say no to a lot of networking events and a lot of things, because I felt like my energy just could not take it anymore. And I took an afternoon where I'm like, I don't need anyone around me. It's just me with me. And I just slept and took a bath, and doing that, the nervous system, no regulation, because I'm like, I so overstimulated that I cannot even if I'm going to speak with one more person, I think I'm just going to die right now. So I totally get it. And it is a very important piece. I would say it's essential. And it's also one of the biggest gap that we are facing overall as humanity, because we have all this information, all this knowledge that it's at our fingertips, but then it's a big difference actually applying and implementing it and embody it, live from it. Because everyone knows, when you tell them whatever advice, or when someone struggles with something and you tell them, they're like, yeah, I know. But then when you ask them, okay, but do you actually live it? Do you embody? Do you live it? Not really. And that's where the biggest gap is. They know it, but they don't do it. Exactly. So that's where the community and having the support comes in, that it's so, so crucial. And I could not agree more. And I just want to say thank you so much, ladies, for coming on. Thank you for the work that you are doing. It is so amazing. And I'm so happy your souls united and you get to serve the world in this way. I definitely feel your energy, your purity, the way you are showing up. And I'm so, so honored I got to have you here as guests.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us and for holding the space for us to share our journey, share our process, share about our community and our training. It's been a pleasure. We could probably talk to you for hours.
We can go on and on and on.
Thank you for creating such a beautiful, nurturing space for us to just be ourselves and want to talk to you for hours. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, thank you. And everyone, you are spending most of your time on Instagram, no?
Yes.
I believe. And then all the show notes, in the show notes, you are going to find all the ways you can connect with both of them, how to reach to their community, the course, everything they have going on, you will find in the show notes. So please make sure you go and check it on, reach out to them and explore. If you have come here and listen to this episode, that means there is a curiosity, there is a spark, there is something there for you to explore, maybe with Kundalini, and just trust yourself, trust your intuition and go and explore their work, because I can tell you it's pure and it's amazing. And I'm looking forward to explore more of it as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I loved being on the Spiritual Changemakers podcast and share this space with you. I loved it.
Thank you. And thank you
Thank you
everyone for tuning in. I will see you in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in to Spiritual Changemakers podcast. To stay connected and help us reach more people like you, please subscribe, follow, and leave a comment. Join our community of spiritual changemakers on social media to connect with like-minded individuals and continue the conversation. Remember, the power to create positive change is within you. Keep showing up as your best self, and let's keep the magic of change alive. Until next time.